Okay, I guess I have 15 minutes to think.
Hey, Danae. Or hey, Spencer.
Yeah.
Hey, could you do me a favor? This is the first time I've ever tried to use this waiting room feature. We turned it on. Could you hop out really quick and then jump back in and just let me see if it actually I don't know what it is. Yeah, if you'll just hop out for a quick second, let me see what it's like when you come back in. If the waiting room means I have to let you in.
Okay, yeah, it should, but yeah, let me try it. Let's see.
I haven't used it before. Make sure I know how to do it before these people start jumping in. Okay, he's out. Just couldn't find. I don't want to find the meeting ID. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's sweet.
You just put your.
Yeah, so it shows up one person's waiting and then you hit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's
Come
pretty.
on in.
That's pretty slick. Okay.
There we go. That seemed like it worked. Yeah, it just brought me to a screen that said that I had to wait to get in or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Ah, that's nice.
So you were able to click and let me in when you wanted to?
Yeah, so then it just pops up waiting room, Spencer, and then there's a button I hit for admit.
Perfect.
Spencer, so one of my buddies lives down in Dallas.
Uh-huh.
When this whole thing happened, the run on guns down there was, he said, just insane.
Oh yeah. No, they set some records, which is impressive with considering how big some of the records were before.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, my older brother worked for Dick's Sporting Goods back before they kind of made some changes with their gun stuff, and the like when Obama got elected, it was, oh man, it was
yeah,
crazy.
we jokingly call him the greatest gun salesman of all time.
Yeah, yeah. So it's but yeah, he said, so he went and bought it, and then he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna put it in a safe. I hope to never use it. And I'm like, listen, man, if you're gonna have one, you have to know how to use that thing, or else you're more of a liability with it than.
Yeah, get some training. That's what we do all day, every day. Training. So
Yeah. We used to when I worked for the city of Mesa, we had an officer who I just went through this. They had their police force is big enough that they have one of those 3D simulators where like
yeah,
they were.
yeah, we did that with Orm.
Yeah, so Provo has one that's shared with kind of the county,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you talk to it and it talks back. I mean, it's really cool. But
they're fun.
yeah, her big thing was, hey, I'm good with people having guns, but if they're not trained, I've seen more issues with people having guns not being trained. Than just because a lot of people think, hey, I'll buy a gun, I got it. If I ever need it, I'll use it, but they're just not prepared when that time comes.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need some base level of training to really know how to operate it and
Yeah,
do it safely.
her thing was, if you're not going to get trained, just get a baseball bat and put it in your. I mean, that's better with that than untrained on a gun. But yeah, he said, like, while we were doing a run on generators because of the earthquake in Texas, it was a big run on guns.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Crazy times that we're living in right now.
Spencer, you get around, man. You're in New York now.
I know. I'm a regular jet setter. I I really just need to clean up this office and make it look better for these Zoom calls if we're going to be, this is the new way of doing business.
Yeah.
I'm all for the exotic places, you know, put those in your backgrounds.
Now, Danae, you're a school teacher, right? Oh, sorry, I have you on mute. I have you muted.
Oh, I muted myself. No, I didn't. I unmuted.
You
I
teach
muted
school?
myself. I do. So
How's
I've
that
been
been
doing
going?
these. Fine.
Yeah,
It's pretty boring. I'm getting pretty bored, but
yeah.
yeah. But I do these quite a bit.
Okay,
These Zoom, except we don't use Zoom. We use Google Meet. But
yep. How does the Google Meet work similar ways like this?
it's pretty much exactly the same.
Okay.
So
Yeah, the city's actually switching to the Google Suite as we speak. And so we'll be
oh really?
yeah, Google Suite is our new video conferencing.
I like it.
Does it
But
allow
I
you
think
to
this-
feel like you're sharing screen and everything?
Yeah, you can have screen sharing if you add. There's an add-on. It doesn't come with. There's an add-on called Google Meet Grid, and then you can make it look like the Partridge Family.
Oh,
So that
okay.
everybody's on the screen at the same time.
Nice.
So
Who's the official timer tonight?
That's a good, want to do the timer? Yeah, just like, just as they present. Yeah, Ken's got it.
Okay.
I wonder if there's a timer. For everybody, you know?
okay, we're nearly live here, huh?
Google has a timer, so you could put Kenna's screen up with it.
Oh, yeah, use your screen as a timer. And then so like your video.
Oh, right here.
Although I guess that would be, because then I'll have to share my screen for for the presentations. Yeah, we'll just have to like tell them.
So on Saturday, we kind of did something a little different. So I usually teach classes to big, large groups in auditoriums and conference rooms and stuff, but not able to do that. So we're hosting one of our classes at the drive-in movie theater. So everyone will stay in their cars.
Oh, wow.
And I'll have a microphone. I'll be the only person outside on
Yeah,
top of a truck, and then it'll just go right to their FM radios.
that's
Is that
Well,
the
there's
driving
still-
theater on Redwood Road?
No, the Pleasant Grove did a pop-up drive-in movie
Yeah,
theater.
the newest drive-in theater.
Yep, the newest drive-in theater. So we're doing that because by law it has to be a live class. So Zoom is out, and so to stay within the laws and follow those, we're gonna do in person at a drive-in movie theater.
that's awesome.
Kind of a different thing we're doing because of all this.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, it's going to be good weather for you Saturday.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I referenced that Pleasant Grove Theater and what they did to innovate and kind of stay in business is like, I don't know, it's one of the great stories of this whole thing around here.
Yeah. So we called them up and said, hey, we'd like to use your facility and follow all your procedures.
Oh,
Maybe a
that's-
little more strict to make sure that no one gets in trouble. And yeah, so that's what we've got them booked most Saturdays going forward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
perfect.
bet they like that business.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So they're able to bring their employees in for extra hours and stuff to staff our events.
Yeah.
Because they need an employee to clean the bathrooms between guests, and there's a whole thing that they do. So we were happy that it kind of worked out for us because my employees are getting hours and their employees are getting some hours and everyone's staying safe. So it kind of worked out.
Okay, well, we got Paul Overson with Cries of Freedom in our waiting room, so I'm going to bring him in and we'll get started. Okay. So Scott Swain and Paul Overson.
Yes.
And I am going to share my screen. I have your presentations on here. Do you want to start with talking, YouTube video, or your presentation?
It's up to Scott. He's the boss.
Oh, Scott,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. How's everyone?
Doing well, Scott. How are you doing?
Good. This is all interesting. I like it. It's great. Okay. So you can go ahead and put it on if you
You want the YouTube video?
Yeah.
Okay. Struggling with the sound on this. I don't know.
It's okay.
Yeah, there's no sound, so I don't know. You know, for sake of time, Scott, maybe you just kind of talk over this and kind of help us understand what we're seeing.
Well, it's just for those of you who haven't seen our show, this is just a little preview of it. You can see the pictures. We've been doing it in the Sarah Theater now for 2 years. This would be our third year in the Sarah Theater. We did it for 10 years in the Sarah Park. So if you haven't seen it, you know, it tells the history of the founding, not only of our country, but the fight for freedom and nations and peoples all over the world from Joan of Arc onward to our time. So pretty dramatic. We use kids that anywhere from about age 14 to 24, 25, and have a lot of enthusiasm. They really get into it, and really it changes the lives of the actors a lot. And I think the audiences really love it too, because I think it really demonstrates what the 4th of July is all about. And so we've had very good reviews of it over the past years. Anyway, that's it. And here we are. So, do you have any, does everyone know what our show is? Pretty much? Everyone's nodding, pretty much? Okay. Any questions about it? Here we go. Okay, well, no questions then. Our, let's see, last year we received, do you want me just to go in
I
to
have a
it?
question for you.
Yeah.
So what is your guys' contingency plans given COVID-19 and everything like that? What is, I mean, it's held 4th of July generally, so what's your plans if that kind of thing's not allowed? Do you have a backup, or is it just canceling?
Well, it's going to be hard to put on because Adam at the Sarah's got his own schedule, and he's put off a lot of his things, and so for us to squeeze in is going to be pretty hard. Plus, our kids are going back to college or high school or whatever in the fall, so it's going to be harder to get them to come and put it on. If it was canceled over the 4th of July, we'd probably just display a show, one of our shows on the Freedom Festival, and maybe, you know, of course on our site we already have it there and people could just go there and watch it. But we have some expenses that would be incurred that already have been incurred. Anyway, we bought some microphones in January, and whoa, okay, here we go.
All right. I forget a YouTube video continues on. Sorry, give me just a second.
Okay.
I was just I was pulling up what you had sent me, Scott, just showing those, there,
Yeah.
there.
Coronavirus update. So we have some expenses that we've incurred anyway. We bought some digital microphones, and we have to buy those because the FCC has stated that no later than July 13th of this year we'll be required to cease operations of any microphones using the 600 megahertz service band. And so we bought digital microphones that are using the 500 megahertz service band. And they're also, digital mics use a very smaller bandwidth, so we'll be able to use those for a long time. And then the only other expense is our storage unit for 1,320. So the expenses we have, whether we put it on or not, were 3,737. So.
Now, when you say the storage unit expense, is that what you're assuming next year's storage unit expense will be?
Yeah, that's the expense we have every year that we
Okay.
pay for. Yeah. So, and we don't know, of course, if we're going to put it on. If I had to guess, I would say probably not, because BYU has already said they're doing away with all their summer camps through August, and the church, the Freedom Festival would have to rent the football stadium from the church in July. And I don't know if that would really happen, because since they've already canceled everything at BYU. But if they do decide to go through with it, we are ready, and they're going to announce that in about a week. And then we will know for sure if it is happening. If the Freedom Festival is not happening and we're not doing the Stadium of Fire and whatnot, and then, Adam may say, we're adhering to all Orem City policies and all governor policies and everything, and so we're not going to have it there in an enclosed place, but like I say, there's a small possibility it might happen, but I don't know quite yet. Okay. Any questions? No? So that's it.
Scott, I will just kind of mention, we had a conversation with the Colonial Heritage Festival, and we'll be talking to them again later tonight. But I think all can appreciate and recognize the challenge of funding something that doesn't happen.
Right.
And that's obviously one of the challenges we're going to be up against is care tax is going to take a huge hit the last 4 months of the fiscal year, given what's happening.
Right.
And so we don't know. I won't speak for the city council or even for this commission on what they do, but I guess the only thing I just mentioned is it for an event that doesn't happen, it will be challenging to fund. And I can appreciate expenses that have already been made, but as with every grant, there's never surety that money is going to be available in the next year. And so I don't know if I guess I'd advise you to maybe look at whether that's something you can float for a year to, be reimbursed in a year that you do this, or return policies or things like that. And I'm not speaking for what the city council will do. I have no, say there, but I just to keep expectations, where they probably ought to be for all of us.
Right.
So Scott, has the CARE been the primary funding for this event in the past, or what percentage does it make up roughly?
It's about half. So we get half from care tax and half from the Freedom Festival every year. So, we're just going to see what the care tax is going to offer. And then I'm going to go to the Freedom Festival to ask some and see how much they have. But of course, if they're not doing Stadium of Fire, which is their main income source, they might not have any money for us, either. All we can do is just ask. And if we have to float some for a while, I guess we have to float it. But, we're hoping we can get it and get it covered. So anyway, we're just grateful. You know, we appreciate the care tax. We appreciate the Freedom Festival. We obviously want to put on our show, but if we can't, we just can't. There's nothing we can really do about it. So we're all in kind of unprecedented times, you know?
No, understood.
Oh, I think your telephone's on.
It just rang and I tried to turn it off.
Yeah, just turn it off. Okay.
Well, Scott, I think we just have a few seconds left. Any last questions before we let Scott and Paul go? We appreciate you spending this time with us, and thanks for adapting to this way of presenting that.
Hey, it's no problem here. I enjoy it. I like it, so it's fine.
Okay, well, we'll let you both go.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
You
you.
bet.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
We'll
Bye.
see ya.
Probably is a little less stressful doing it this way instead of having to stand in front of the group.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
you just don't have to go anywhere.
just remove them. Okay, I'm going to bring in, next is Utah Theater Bloggers Association. And I'm trying to remember, I have all these names now because there's other presenters, and I'm trying to remember.
Did you say bloggers?
Yeah, Crystal Young.
Is anyone not showing up tonight that's on the,
Not that I
on the
know of.
schedule? Okay.
Hey, Crystal, remind me, are you with the bloggers?
No, Utahns for Culture.
Ah, okay. Yep, you're next. Sorry, will you just hit the leave meeting and then I'll bring you in because you're the 6:20 presentation.
Okay, so I'm after.
Yeah, you're after. I just hit the wrong button.
No problem.
Thank
So
you.
come back. Okay.
Yep. Some of them have different presenters than we typically respond with, and so there was a Del Morris, and I've never heard of Del.
There's a button for you, Steven, somewhere on there that you can send people back to the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It seems like a smoother way than just, hey, remove yourself.
I've never been on your side, but I know there's a way to do it. Let's put it that way.
You've been voted off the island, but we don't know how to leave. So.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what? I guess the two that we have are both with Utahns for Culture. So the others, if you're good with it, I think we'll just bring them in so we're not getting behind.
Sure. Okay.
Does that work? Still there. Does that work? Crystal, I know I just bumped you out, but the other one hadn't shown yet, so I figured we'd have you and Ruth get started.
Works for me.
Okay.
And do you want me to share my screen, or are you going to pull up our?
Oh yeah, if you do have your screen available to share, I'll let you just go ahead and do it.
Well, great. Let me figure out which screen it's on. Hang on just a second. Okay. Share. I think if I do desktop 1 and then I hit play, can you see it?
Yep.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's the wrong one. It's this one. All right. Can you see it?
Got it.
Great. Well, I'm Crystal Young Otterstrom. You guys met me last year. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and thank you for serving the city of Orem with your public service. And Ruth White is our Director of Outreach here, and you know us more probably as Utahns for Culture, but our 501c4 organization is Utah Cultural Alliance. And a lot of people know us more under that banner, and so we've renamed our 501c3 to Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation. It has a more closer tie to the organization. And I've been the executive director for almost 10 years. And our mission is to amplify Utah's diverse arts, humanities, and cultural industries, in particular, the contributions they make to Utah's economic, family, and community life. We were founded in 1980, actually, so this is our 40th anniversary this unusual year. And Utah Cultural Alliance is a statewide voice, and Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation together are a statewide voice for culture, working to advance arts, museums, and humanities. And as an industry association, we represent 300 cultural organizations and thousands of creative professionals. And so these two arms, our C3 and C4, share a unified vision and mission, and thereby allowing us to advance culture in both the public and the private sectors. This is our vision, a Utah that recognizes Utah's culture's transformative power, a Utah that values its cultural industries, and a Utah that prioritizes their support through robust public and private investment in culture. And then a little bit of background about our organization. Again, mentioned we were founded in 1980, and we were actually called Utah Citizens for the Arts back then. And one of its first items of accomplishments that it worked on behalf of the cultural sector for was passing the Percent for Art public art programs at the state legislature, and now there's 9 of these programs around the state. In 1993, with the conception of the 0.1% RAP type taxes, including your Orem Care, to benefit cultural organizations, Utah Citizens for the Arts added humanities, zoos, and botanical organizations to its scope. And that's when we became the Utah Cultural Alliance. And now there are 41 RAP type taxes at Utah municipalities. 6 of those are counties, and then the rest are at cities. In 2016, we grew to add a 501c4 arm focused on advocacy. To keep these arms separate, the 501c3 arm is now known as Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation, and the 501c4 arm is known as Utah Cultural Alliance. And then in 2018, we actually took over the management of the website nowplayingutah.com. It's an online calendar of everything to see and do in Utah with a heavy emphasis on the arts and humanities. This website was founded by Utah Division of Arts and Museums, Visit Salt Lake, and Salt Lake County Zoo Arts and Parks. And Visit Salt Lake had been managing it, and then they approached us to take over its management because they felt it would be better served by a statewide cultural organization rather than a regional destination marketing organization. That, as you can imagine, with COVID, there is not a lot going on in person, but we now have a nowplayingutah.com/virtual page where you can see everything online that Utah's cultural community has to offer right now. And the site sees 1.5 million visitors, unique visitors per year. So an important part of what we do is measuring the economic benefit of culture. These are stats from 2018 is the most recent year that we have data. So the creative industries employ 111,919 Utahns to be exact, almost 112,000, generates $4.5 billion in earnings, $16 billion in sales. We know 337 million of that comes back to the state's general fund and sales tax. And then Utah's #1 in the nation, actually, for the performance and creation of art. This is a very recently released national study, and Utah's #3 in the nation for arts and culture employment growth. We'll see if we continue to maintain that after this pandemic. We have been working with our statewide partners, Utah Division of Arts and Humanities, Utah Division of Arts and Museums, Utah Department of Heritage and Arts, Utah Humanities, and Utah Museums Association to measure the impact of the novel coronavirus on the arts, culture, and entertainment industry. And so here's some of the data that we thought you might be interested in hearing, since data is a big part of what we do. So as you can imagine, the majority of this sector is having a mostly severe to extremely severe impact. As over about 649 entities have taken this survey to date, and of these entities, they report a total loss of $55 million, which is astounding. 49.5 of them are likely to lower salaries or lay off staff. 3,600 positions are in jeopardy, and 1,600 jobs have been terminated. And there actually used to be a higher number of positions in jeopardy, but as more and more have been terminated, that number has reciprocally lowered. And so we are working to help this cultural sector survive. So here's some of the things that we do on our 501c3 side of things. So we offer career development for creative professionals to expand the capacity of the cultural sector to do their work and share their stories. And we'll talk in a little bit more detail about career development, since that's what our grant application is about. We maintain a state cultural asset map, which provides a space for arts and cultural organizations to market their work as well as connect with each other and their patrons. And this is kind of a visual representation of the information on nowapplyingutah.com. And then again, we collect and report data to show the positive impact of the cultural sector on the economic, family, and community life of Utahns. So last year, with our Orem Care support, we hosted a series of 8 trainings for the cultural sector on online marketing. There weren't the only career development offerings that we did last year, but this is what we used our Orem Care money for. And BYU professor William Arnett, who is also CEO of Theatrosoft, which is an online ticketing service, and then he teaches online marketing at BYU. He taught our 8-week course. And two of these classes were hosted at the CIRA with support provided with last year's Orem Care funding. And then we also made these webinars so that people could tune in anywhere in the state. This is how we will use our 2020 grant funding, primarily for career development. And as you can imagine, training is needed not just in Salt Lake City, but across the state. So our request of $3,000 will support career development for creative professionals in Orem, with both in-person and virtual options to expand the capacity of the cultural sector to do their work and share their stories. And as a response to the social distancing requirements to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, we have expanded our career development events to include topics such as streaming cultural events, virtually connecting with your audience, online marketing, fundraising during crisis, and how to apply for economic relief. We've partnered with other cultural organizations at the state level to provide a weekly public update call to address concerns and provide information for the cultural sector. And we're implementing a weekly culture conversation call that has serves as a gathering place to exchange ideas, concerns, and support. And we understand that this is a difficult year, but we also know that the basics of career development are still important. So we will still offer trainings in fundraising and marketing and other such topics that we typically offer year over year. And we've already done a fundraising in COVID webinar as well. So here's my contact information if you have any questions, and that's my cell. So you're welcome to call or text me, and that's our presentation. I'm happy to take your questions.
We have about a minute or so for any questions if anybody has some.
So someone who was like how do people find out about this? Like if someone was a performer or something, what is your
Sure.
like?
So yeah, we have a pretty robust email list actually with around 20,000 creative workers in the state. We also advertise these on Facebook and other online marketing places. We buy advertising. We use some of that money to buy advertising to promote these so that we can get it in front of as many creative professionals as possible. Because as you can imagine, getting the word out about your work and learning how to be professional about your work is sometimes skills that we creatives don't necessarily inherently have. And so we really like to teach that business side of culture to these creative professionals.
So when you're saying that you're reaching out, especially to Orem residents, like you have something right here in Orem, like a thing that they can come to? virtually, I guess, this year or something.
Well, right now,
It's like-
virtually, yes. But last year, we hosted in-person trainings at the CIRA, which is one of our members. And actually, Adam serves on our board, actually, Adam, the CEO there. And hopefully we can offer it in person again, maybe later in the year at the CIRA is our plan. But for now, it's going to be digital while we have these social distancing requirements. But we hope to be able to do it in person again and do it at the CIRA.
Okay.
How many people attend your courses?
It depends on the topic. Marketing and fundraising are the most popular. And so we can have up to 100 at those trainings, each of those trainings. That 8-week course, Ruth, do you remember the exact numbers of registrants? It was several hundred.
I believe it was about 250.
250. And then fundraising is also a really popular topic. Some of the others, we get more like 50 or 80 people. But those are, whenever we do those topics, we get the most people at those, since finding revenue for culture is always an important skill to teach.
Anything else? Appreciate you both spending time with us. Please,
I was just going to add quickly that we do record these webinars, and so people who are not able to attend when they actually happen, they can access them at a later date as well.
Great. Okay. Hey, thank you both.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth.
Okay. We'll go ahead and bring in our next one. Dell, thanks for waiting with us. Oh. All right.
Hello.
Dell, remind now with Utah Theater Bloggers.
Nope. Charles and I are with the Orm Corral.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to bring Charles in. The one that we're missing just hasn't shown yet. So I'm going to bring in Charles to join you, and then we'll get started.
That sounds great. Awesome.
There we go. Okay. We got you both here, and I got a presentation that was sent ahead of time.
Yes.
And I will go ahead and pull that up and share my screen.
All right. I don't see Dell.
Dell's.
I'm here.
Okay, you're on. I can hear you, Dell.
Yep.
Okay, great. There you are.
Oh, I see you, Charles.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I will control it, and then whoever wants to take the lead, and I'll just tell me when to click to the next slide.
All right, sounds good. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start it. Now, before we start, do you hear the audio playing in the background?
You know, we can hear it in here. I think it might be taking it up to the, because I'm plugged in with the HDMI, I think it's taking it to our intercoms above.
Okay.
So you may, yeah, it may not be coming through here. So that's my bad.
That's okay. Just as long as you can hear the audio, that's great. Okay, first of all, we'll go ahead and start. On behalf of the Orm Corral, thank you for having us here today. And my name is Charles Robertson. I'm the current president of the Orm Corral, and this is Dell Morris. He is our president-elect for next year. First of all, let's start out by giving you guys a big thank you for your care grant support in previous years. Okay, next slide.
We are a group of people from the community that love to sing and share our talent with others. We've been singing since 2010 with currently 51 members. And we have 41 board members. 11 of the board members are volunteer positions. Our music director, assistant director, and accompanist are salary positions. Our rehearsals are held on Thursday evenings at Orem High School. Go on to the next slide.
The mission of the Orem Chorale is to inspire, uplift, and unite our community through beautiful music. Those who join our choir want to share their musical talents with others and continue improving their musical skills. Through challenging repertoire and a wide range of musical styles, we continually improve our own musicianship and vocal abilities. Our repertoire includes spirituals, folk songs, sacred music, patriotic, classical works, and many others, including works from Broadway and popular genres. The song playing in the background that you hear is a recording of the Orem Chorale singing Sanctus, a number we were preparing for our canceled Easter concert this year. We believe we will best serve our community by sharing a heightened musical experience to be enjoyable and inspiring to all. Next slide.
Our concerts usually draw from 120 to 2,000 people, depending on the event and venue. In 2019, we performed at 6 concerts, which included an Easter choir side, the Utah Valley National Day of Prayer, a patriotic concert, a fall concert, the Utah Valley Celebration of Thanksgiving concert, where we performed with 4 other choirs from around the valley, and our Christmas concert. In past years, we've also performed at the Orem Summerfest concerts in the park and at care centers around Orem. So far, our 2020 concerts this season have been postponed due to the current social distancing directives.
Okay, next slide.
Next slide.
We estimate that attendance at our performances this year totaled around 1,967 people. We estimate that at least 1,000 were Orem residents, and the rest were from surrounding areas that attended the combined Thanksgiving concert in American Fork. Next slide, please.
We feel that we've had a great success this past year. We are grateful to the Orem Public Library for letting us share our talents with Orem residents in this wonderful acoustically rich venue, and we look forward to performing in the new performance hall. Next slide.
We are very grateful to have, we are very grateful to have very talented professional directors and accompanists who keep us engaged, enthused, choose beautiful music, and have the skills to help us improve our musical talents. These are the paid positions. Their combined yearly salaries total $7,200. We rent the choir rooms at Orem High School for our rehearsal space and often perform in the auditorium. The rental fees total about $3,175 yearly. Other costs include payroll taxes and liability insurance. Sometimes we incur publicity and advertising fees, which can vary. Nearly all of the money we spend goes directly back into our community. The total yearly budget of our choir is about $12,000. Next slide.
Last year, we received a total of $4,999 from the CARE grant. Our directors and accompanying salaries are paid directly out of the CARE grant fund until the fund is exhausted, and the remainder of their salaries and other expenses are covered by member dues. By having this wonderful grant and these amazing people, we are able to offer our concerts free to the community and to keep our member dues reasonable.
Next slide.
Next slide.
We represent the city of Orem. 5 of our 6 performances in 2019 were held in Orem. 90% of our members are Orem residents. About 10% of our members are from other communities around Orem because no other community around us offers what we do. Next slide.
We provide a place for community members to continue to develop their musical talents. We have a wide range in ages of our members, and members are not required to audition, memorize, or purchase music or performance attire. It's a wonderful place for people to share their talents in a non-stressful atmosphere. Next slide.
We serve the Orem community. All our concerts are free. We sing a variety of music that appeals to the general population of Orem. We are expanding our audience by performing at local care centers and participating in community events. Next slide.
We provide a sense of identity and community for the city of Orem. We represent Orem in performing at city festivals, holidays, and special events. We serve Orem residents by providing an enjoyable, enriching musical experience. We look forward to participating in Orem's Centennial Celebration and performing at the new Orem Performance Hall. Next slide.
Our goal is to share high quality chorale music with the Orem community. The Orem Chorale is not just our choir, it belongs to the whole Orem community and benefits us all. It is my choir, it is your choir, it is our choir, it is Orem's choir. We request that you continue to support your own community choir, the Orem Chorale, through your generous and very much appreciated care grant. Next slide.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. Do you have any questions?
So run us through the events that you have planned, or that you had planned in 2020. What's been canceled, and which ones do you anticipate will be canceled? Kind of run us through that.
Del, would you like to take that?
Sure. We've already canceled. Well, we started with postponing in mid-March. We had an Easter concert that was planned the first week of April, and that was first postponed, and we've since canceled it. We participate in the yearly National Day of Prayer concert. Last year it was at the Catholic Church, St. Francis, and we enjoyed it there. And this year the concert has already been canceled, and we look forward to participating again soon. And then usually right at the end of May or 1st of June, we have our patriotic concert. And that's often at the Orem Library. That's the place where we've usually had it. And that concert often coincides with part of Summerfest. And with Summerfest being on hold or put off for now, we don't know for sure. We usually take a break during the summer, and we usually start again in the fall, end of August or 1st of September.
Now, with those cancellations, has that lowered some of your guys' costs? I assume many of your costs are event-based, or which ones are variable costs that go away when you don't end up holding an event?
Well, that's a very good question. Because we have not been gathering for rehearsal for the last 2 months, we have not had to pay the salaries to our directors and accompanists. And that has lowered our cost for those 2 months. And we expect the same will occur in May, unless we can get together. If things lighten up and we can gather for a rehearsal a few more times before the end of May, we will still have our concerts in May, and we will pay our accompanists and directors for May. So, but that being said, you bring up a good point. The care grant that we received from last year has pretty much already been exhausted with the expenses of this year. So what the remaining amount that we would have paid to our directors and accompanists would come out of our members' dues.
I don't know if you saw it, but you might want to look. Lieutenant Governor Cox tweeted yesterday and specifically mentioned choir rehearsals as I believe he called it a super spreader event. I'm not trying to be negative, but something to take a look at.
I agree with you. I
specifically
saw that
out
as well.
Choir rehearsals.
Yeah, I saw that as well. In fact, we talked about that at the end, at the beginning of March. There was a Seattle choir that had that very same, that was the article that he was quoting in his tweet. And yeah, you know, we laughed about that. We're a whole bunch of people that get together and spit at one another. So it's probably not a great idea to,
It's
to
rough,
do that
unfortunately.
until it's really time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, Dale, Charles, appreciate you both.
Thank
Thanks,
you for
guys.
having us.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
That's
for hosting us.
appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will bring in the next one. I think this is going to be Utah Wind Symphony. Oh, no, sorry. Christine, Christine, I didn't realize that was you sitting out there. I thought Christine was our next, because all it said was Christine, and I didn't notice you had left. So I left you in that waiting room the whole time. That's on me.
Yeah, I was going, why is it not letting me back in? This is weird.
Yeah, I assumed that Christine was the person that was going to be presenting on the Utah Wind Symphony, and so I
was like, and I was sitting there going, it's not letting me back in. I better send him an email. Let him know I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I couldn't respond or anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I apologize. Okay, so Utah Wind Symphony hasn't shown up, but Utah Theater Bloggers, I texted them and they apologized. They forgot. So Russell is on the line. I'm going to bring him in, and then I think we'll go into a break after this. Hey, Russell. Oh, Russell, I don't have any sound for you. Do you have a way to talk to us? Can you hear me? Can you just nod if you hear me? I don't know if he knows. Hey, Russell, can you hear me? Can you hear us, Russell? Give me a sec. I'll text him. Can everybody else hear me? Oh, okay. Russell, let me unmute you. There we go.
Hey, sorry that I'm late.
You're good. No problem. I have your presentation here, but if you have it and are able to share your screen, we can do it either way.
Yeah, I will. Give me a second and let me pull it up. I was caught off guard. I don't know how this slipped through my cracks. It's been on my mind for 6 weeks. And I'm trying to get kids to bed right now. That's what you saw when you turned on the camera. Give me a sec.
Well, good for you. 6:45. I'll be putting my kids to bed in about 3 hours.
Well, I have 3 kids, and bedtimes start at 7, and they're staggered.
Okay,
so
okay, nice.
2.5 hours of bedtime, which is fun. Give me a sec. It's coming up.
Well, Russell, while you're doing that, why don't you just kind of give an overview? We have some new commission members. I guess that's maybe part of your presentation, but just kind of start talking us through your organization. And
Yeah. So, you know, I uploaded a video also. This is my first time using Zoom, so let me figure out how to share.
Let me do this then. While you're pulling yours up.
Well, no, I have it ready. Where's the share screen button?
At the bottom. Kind of.
Bottom. Is it the share? Ah, there it is. Okay.
And we do have just a shortened or a time limit. So the video, I know, is 7 minutes, so you may not want to go through all of it.
Yeah. I knew that the video you guys could watch in your spare time, but this is basically recapping the video.
Okay.
Utah Theater Bloggers, UTB, I'm the president. We've been around since 2010, and we've been a nonprofit since 2017. We were on track to publish 2,000 reviews of plays in Utah by now, but the coronavirus stopped that because there's no plays going on right now. And we've been reviewing an Orem since the beginning. One of our first reviews is an Orem. And our goal is to provide feedback to theater artists and to be a literary organization to encourage the art of criticism. I'll let you watch the video to get the whole spiel, but I have a couple of screenshots from recent Orem reviews. We review any organization that asks us to come, except we do not review K-12 theater or productions where people have to pay to participate. Those are usually educational of some sort. So we see a wide variety of stuff, not just here, but all over the state. We also, thanks to CARE, this past January opened up our reviewing workshop to the public. We also have been experimenting with talkbacks with audiences to get them talking about shows and to think about them. And we're moving our training online, again, thanks to the coronavirus. We're doing videos about reviewing live theater. And our asks, and you see it in the budget there, there's 3 components, I believe. There's funds for writing and editing reviews, funds for purchasing tickets if needed. We're gonna put a little more pressure on UVU. They, I don't want to say anything bad about my fellow artists, but we're gonna encourage them to get more reviews. And if they keep stonewalling us, then we're going to try to use CARE funds to purchase tickets to review those shows. And then just some incidentals for another in-person training in Orem. Our last one was really successful, and we'd like to continue that. That's the 2-minute version of the 7-minute video, which is the condensation of like the past 10 years of what we've been doing here.
How many people attend your trainings?
In person, it varies depending on the location and stuff. At the Orem one, we had, we streamed it on Facebook. I believe that online we had about 30 views. In person, we had about 5 or 6 people there, which I wish it were more, but theater reviewing and just arts criticism in general is a niche literary genre. So I sort of understand that. But we're hoping to get more for our upcoming training online.
So what was that? I saw on that slide, $25 per review. What is that referring to?
That's the cost of paying a reviewer and paying a professional editor. Right now, and it's not enough for anyone to actually live on. Everyone's an independent contractor. Right now, we're paying $15 to the people actually attending the show and writing the review, because it takes, depending on the show and how easy it is to talk about how good or bad it is, it takes about 2 to 4 hours to write a review, and so $15 is not a lot per hour. And then we pay our editor $10 per review, and that takes about 20 to 45 minutes to do. And that cost just goes straight to independent contractors.
And then can anyone use those reviews once you write that? Then whoever you're writing it for, then they can then send that out to whoever they want to, if they want to, based on what the review says.
Yeah, we do have some copyright rules. If it's a one-off use, like you want to post it in your lobby, which some theater companies have done, post it in your lobby. We actually have had some people frame their reviews when they've been positive. That we just let people do that. But for advertising purposes, we have some rules. They can, as long as they attribute the review to our writer and to the site, they can use up to 4 quotes or 3 quotes that are no more than 60 words each. And that's more than enough for advertising copy. And we encourage people to share quotes on social media. So yeah, we're very free with permissions for reuse, because we see reviews as a public good in the arts.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to kind of figure out what you do. I know sometimes critics get a bad rap for just being overly negative, which I imagine with community events could be easy to do. I mean, is that so? Tell me just a little bit about that, how that goes, and what's kind of your guys' goal in that.
Our goal is to provide professional quality reviews, and any professional who does this for a living will tell you that you cannot judge a fully professional equity house like Pioneer Theater Company by the same standards as an arts council. And so, and we say this on our site, that we judge shows and we give feedback based on what's appropriate. We look at ticket price. We look at how the show is billed. We look at the mission of the company. And so for a good example is arts councils. You know, Sierra, for example, here in Orem, has a lot of full amateur cast shows. They don't bill themselves as being just as good as the Shakespeare Festival, so it's not fair to compare them. And we look, hey, here's a $12 show. Are you getting your money's worth for $12? And in the presentation, I can come back on my screen. We did a sample of reviews a couple of years ago, and about 70% were mostly or entirely positive. About 20% of those were mixed, and about 10% were mostly or entirely negative. And I think that's because we let our team of reviewers, we let people self-select what shows they see. You know, I really don't care, for example, for Oscar Wilde. And so when we're saying to the team, hey, who wants to review The Importance of Being Earnest? I'm not picking it up. But usually our reviewers tend to be interested in the show. They tend to be members of the target audience. And because we tell them, hey, hold the show to the standards that the company is projecting and the standards that the company has for itself, most shows meet that, and it helps that we have great theater artists in Utah and in Orem specifically. I looked at those 22 reviews in Orem since the last time I presented at CARE, and there were a couple mixed ones, but there were none that were 100% negative. But we had a really strong crop of shows this year, which is nice.
So I assume we can see these reviews on your guys' website?
Oh yeah, yep, and you can search for them. There's almost 2,000 there, and it's become sort of a database of maybe not every show in Utah, definitely not every show in Utah, but you get a really good cross-section of what's offered where, and what shows are popular or have come in and out of fashion in the past decade. We really feel like maintaining that historical record of an ethereal art form is really important.
Do you have any information on the analytics for you guys' website, unique visitors per year, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I submitted some of that with the budget. Let me pull up some of those exact numbers.
It'd be interesting to see how many people are seeing the reviews and getting the benefit from them.
Yeah, and when I submitted the application, I actually tallied up how many reviews were submitted to the how many views the shows in Orem got. Let me see if I have that somewhere easy to find. There's the interim report, not there. Let me look at the entire site, which will be every show in the state that we've reviewed. Plus,
what is your guys' website? Sorry.
UtahTheaterBloggers.com. And if you go to the tab at the top that says reviews, you can look at Utah County specifically.
Hey, Russell, I just going through your application, I found those numbers.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
So in 2019, 5,613 website reviews, about 2,000 of them being unique IP addresses.
So, and that's just the Orem, Orem.
Review of Orem Productions. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, that's way less than the full archives. So, yeah, sounds about right. And we had a pretty good year with website views. Yeah, thanks for finding that in the application. I do tally it up. For the entire site, we had 101,000 visits in 2019 from 82,000 unique users. So, Orem obviously is just a little slice of that.
Yeah, that's
fine.
Good.
Thanks for finding those numbers.
Yeah, of course. Well, any other questions for Russell before we let him go? Appreciate you joining us, and thanks for working all this in during bedtime. I get that for sure.
Thanks, and you guys are amazing to do what you do. You know, even before we became a nonprofit, we've been boosters of CARE and ZAP and similar organizations. So regardless of how you apportion the money, it's not an easy job. Good luck making your decisions.
Okay. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, well, we have some we have a time for a break. We're a little bit behind. If you guys need the 10 minutes, that's fine. If 5 minutes work, then we can kind of stay on schedule. 5 minutes work?
5 minutes, good for me.
Okay.
Back at 7?
Yeah, 5 minutes is good.
Yep, come back at, oh, no, I apologize. I put a 20-minute break in. So come back at 7:10. So 13 minutes.
Good.
The Utah Wind Symphony didn't show up, and that'll also be part of our conversation later when we talk about deliberations for other reasons. Okay. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like the Zoom thing though.
I do too, but we get used to it.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit to get used to. Well, I think we have Jessica. So Jessica's next with the Utah Symphony, and she's ready. So are you all good if we bring her in? Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Jessica. Oh.
I'm muted.
Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, we hit it at the same time. There, you got it.
Here.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for waiting while we we had a short break to after a few presentations. So thanks for waiting with us.
No problem.
Okay, I got the presentation up. If you want, do you want me to just get started, or do you want to say a few words before we jump into the presentation?
We can just go through it. I want to make sure there's some time for questions at the end.
Okay, perfect. Okay, you just tell me when to click and we'll go through it.
Perfect. Okay, so my name's Jessica Proctor. I'm the Director of Institutional Giving at Utah Symphony, Utah Opera. And first, I just want to thank all of you for the support we've received this year from the Orem Care program. It was our first season in Utah County, and I'll talk a little bit about that season. But we're looking forward to building on that and moving forward into our second season and into the future. So we can skip next slide.
Before I move on, Kenna just wanted to point out that logo in the bottom right, that is legit. That's a cool Utah and the O. Yeah, Kenna loves that.
Brand new letterhead that you're seeing at the top, that's the header on our letterhead. So if you receive anything from us, this is like the most on-brand thing we've created because that new letterhead came out like a month ago.
Okay, so, perfect.
Yeah. All right, so at Utah Symphony, Utah Opera, our mission is to connect the community through great live music, to perform, engage, and inspire. And we've been really excited to branch out into Utah County with these Orem concerts because it gives us a chance to realize this mission with a larger population. We don't see a lot of people who are crossing Point of the Mountain to come up to Salt Lake anymore. There's really this invisible wall there. So for us to have a chance to come down to Orem and to perform for the community in their home, in their home community, really is exciting for us. And it means we can engage and inspire with a greater population of people. Next slide. So a brief overview of this season that we're just wrapping up. We had scheduled 6 concerts to take place at the Nordis Center for the Performing Arts on UVU's campus. The final concert was scheduled for March 26th. That was Carmina Burana, and sadly that one was canceled due to COVID-19 restrictions and things that happened right, in the middle of March. But we did have 5 concerts. They were all tremendously successful. We are still processing the feedback. I haven't gotten anything back specifically from our patron services team. They've been a little overwhelmed lately, but they do administer surveys after every single concert. So we're going to be gathering those and aggregating all of that this summer so we can talk about what we might want to shift and introduce next season. Overwhelmingly, though, it was very positive. I was at most of the concerts myself, and coming out of the concerts at the end of the night, I don't know if any of you had the chance to attend, people were so excited. They had such wonderful things to say, and we really, I feel like, did engage and inspire a lot of the people who came to those. The number you're seeing there for attendance, that 2,237, that is the total attendance for the first 4 concerts. I haven't gotten the numbers back for the February concert yet. So it's a smaller hall. Not every concert even fits the entire hall. For example, the Broadway Christmas concert, we had the choir seats filled with a choir. And so this is actually not a bad number. We did have a sellout at the beginning of the season. It's been a pretty good crowd that's come. 33% of our attendance over those first 4 concerts were from non-student Orem residents. We track zip codes on our ticketing through our ticketing system, and students buy discount tickets. So we've been able to tell that 33% of the people who are coming are non-students and they live in Orem. An additional, and it's not on here, but an additional 9% came who were students living in Orem, and that could be high school students or university students. So that means we're seeing 42% of our attendees at these concerts are Orem residents, and then the rest are visitors to the city of Orem. Next slide. So we are planning a pretty great lineup for our 2020-21 season. This is the lineup. We have 4 Masterworks concerts, September, October, February, and April. There are some really popular pieces in there, Prokofiev Cinderella, Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet, things that people will recognize and get really excited about because they've heard them before. We are bringing in some really fantastic guest artists. Yoon Markel has come and played with us before, and he's a fan favorite. We're also featuring some of our musicians at the concerts. Madeline Atkins, who is the soloist in the April concert. She actually was a soloist at the John Williams concert last September. If anyone attended that, she played the Schindler's List violin solo. It was extremely moving. It was one of the highlights of the night for people that came. We got a lot of feedback on that. So we're excited to feature her again for this audience. Then in November, we're bringing an entertainment series concert. It's the music of the Beatles. And with that one, we will have a guest artist group who will come as the Fab Four and perform with the Utah Symphony that night, hits of the Beatles. Our entertainment concert is really fun. For anyone, again, who was at the Broadway Christmas with Ashley Brown last year, those are a little less formal, a little more casual and playful, and that's what we'll see that night. So it should be a fun, relaxed night for people to come and just hear great music. And then in March, I'm so excited. We are bringing down one of our family series concerts. That's Peter and the Wolf, which is widely well known and beloved. Our family series concerts are hugely successful in Salt Lake, and we perform them up in Ogden as well, and people love them. They are designed for younger audiences. They're shorter. They're a 45-minute long concert usually. There's a lot of interaction between the conductor and the audience. Sometimes there's instruction given during that too. So it's really designed for people who aren't used to attending a lot of symphony concerts. So we're hoping we're able to see a lot of local families come to that and participate in that. Next slide. So as we've been planning this season and looking at what we're doing in Utah County, we're looking at a long-term trajectory here. This is something we as an organization are heavily invested in. And so we have added 3 board members to our full board of trustees who live and work in Utah County. Kelly Ward, and their pictures are there, Kelly Ward from Zions Bank, and then Astrid Tumeniz, who is the UVU president, and Senator Daniel Hemmert, who actually represents Orem as his constituency. And so having them on our board is going to help inform our strategic planning with regard to Utah County, and they are also driving our task force now. We've recruited some new members based on their recommendations. They're serving on the task force, and that task force really works as a think tank for us in developing innovations and helping to understand what we can do that might be different that we're not thinking of. And so we're excited to work with them. We also do have other programming that we run in Utah County every season. We have an annual concert at Thanksgiving Point and at the BYU campus through the School of Music. Those are still going to continue. So we do have other things going on for the community. And we do a lot of school programming in Utah County as well. One of note, every year in November, we spend 2 days presenting concerts at Orem High School for local students. They're bused into Orem High School. From their local school, it's a lot of elementary and middle school students, and we have symphony concerts we've curated specifically for the students at that time. So we do plan on all of that still going on. Next slide. I'm almost done. I know we're running short. All right, so I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot, an overview of how our finances work a little bit. So the chart on the left shows you the breakdown of our revenue sources as an organization. 40% of our revenue overall, and this is our total USUO budget, comes from earned revenue. So that means ticket sales, fees, rentals, things like that. Then 18% of our revenue comes from public sources. That's government agencies, and that can be city, local, county, state, all the way up to national organizations. And then 42% of our budget does come from private sources, individuals and foundations. So it's actually a pretty good average of public support we're seeing. We just want to make sure you know we're working really hard to get funding from other sources as we're asking for funding from you as well. The middle chart shows the allocation of funding and how we use the funding internally. 88% of our budget is spent directly on artistic and programming. So, and then 13% goes for administrative costs. So there's not a lot spent on the overhead. Most of what we spend goes directly to our concerts and our programs. So that's how your money will be, well, that's how money is used. The funding specifically we're asking from the Orem Care grant this year is that third chart. So of that 88% on the middle chart, one small part of that is our guest artist fees. We have to pay our guest artists to come and perform at our concerts. And so of the total fee we're looking at just for the Utah County guest artist fees this year, the Orem Care allocation would be just about 25% of that if we were funded at the max level, which I believe is $9,999. So that's, and then we'll be looking at the other 75%, even just of that piece coming from other sources. On the right, I just put in some ticketing policies. There were a lot of questions last year about ticketing, so I wanted to include that. So you could just scan that if you had any questions. And my next slide is just a I'm done slide. So that's all I've got to, that's my overview of what we're looking at, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Jessica, real quick, the flexible return policy, has that kind of always been, or just given the current conditions, that's something you've kind of started to implement?
It's always been a little flexible. Our ticket office is really willing to work with people. If you don't manage to come to a concert and you call us the next day and say, I couldn't come last night, they usually will let you at least exchange your ticket for credit. The return policy has expanded with COVID-19, where they've got a lot more options for people where they can get a full refund or do gift certificates or turn it into a donation. There's a lot of ways that they've expanded that a little bit, but our ticket office is really willing to work with people so that usually our preference is to give you credit for an upcoming concert, but they'll work with someone when they call them. And our ticket office is really trained for that.
Any other questions for Jessica?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, thank you all so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with everything else you're doing, and we'll all get through this, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I will bring in John Colton with Utah Baroque, and then Aubrey, who I'm assuming is with him. I'll find out from John. Hey, John, can you hear me? Oh.
That.
Okay, hey, is Aubrey with you?
I don't know who Aubrey is.
Okay, then we'll leave her in the waiting room. Some of these names, it's not always who I work with, so I don't always know the individual. But John, we appreciate you joining us. I have your presentation here. Did you want to say a few words, or do you want to jump into the presentation?
Yeah, we can jump into the presentation.
Okay, let me get that
Got a
started.
title slide, so I can use that to introduce myself.
Okay, there you go, John. Time's yours.
All right. So I'm John Colton. Thanks for having me. I hope these presentations are going fine for you. I'm a faculty member at BYU, so I've been doing this whole Zoom thing for the last several weeks myself. I'm a member of the Utah Baroque Ensemble on its board of directors, and I've actually been part of the group since 2008. So I've been in for quite a while. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. So as you see from the last slide, we are a musical group, about 35 singers, and several instrumentalists, typically 5 to 7, depending on the concert. We're a group that was founded in 1987, and we've had the same director for the entire 33 years of the ensemble's existence. We specialize in Baroque and Renaissance music, but we also do modern choral works. So a typical concert will have pieces that range in composition date from, maybe 400 years, from 1600 to contemporary. Feel free to interrupt with questions, by the way, as we go. I don't think this needs to be too formal. I've also got an experiment where embedded in my presentation is a short video and a short audio clip also. So we'll see how that goes when we get to those points. Anyway, we are based in Utah County. We have roughly 5 concerts a year in Orem, 4 concerts in Provo typically, then scattered other concerts around the area in Salt Lake County and Utah County. Every so often we go on tour. Our most recent tour was in 2018. The tours are paid for by the members themselves, not from grant funds. That tour was to Germany, including a visit and performance at the Thomaskirche in Leipzig, which is where Bach spent 30 years as the choir director and composed most of his works. That was a very special experience, as Bach is sort of the quintessential Baroque composer and one of our favorite composers that we like to perform. I think you can go on to the next slide. Roughly half of the ensemble are Orem residents themselves. The others live in Provo typically, or a few are a little bit from more farther abroad than that. Next slide. You can see what we've got planned for the coming season. We'll have a concert probably at an LDS chapel on Center Street of mostly Christmas music. And Christmas music, we use the term loosely. There's a lot of classical pieces that have Christmas themes that we'd be including with that. In December, we'll have 2 Christmas concerts of more traditional Christmas type music. And about half the pieces will be sing-along. We do that every year at the Orem Library. We actually used to just have 1 concert, but it got to be too popular. There wasn't enough room for everybody. So they expanded it to a 2nd concert. I guess there's that new performance hall that's being built. I'm not sure what the time frame on that is.
It's I can speak to that. The plan right now is we're looking at November. The supply chain and getting some of the stuff here has been slowed.
Yeah.
We're looking at November, so you may be one of the first,
Yeah. So we may well perform in that if it's ready by our December concert. In February, we'll have a master class for high school students that want to participate, where we hire an expert in Baroque music to come teach the students. And then there'll be a recital that the students have to audition to participate in March. And the winner of that recital gets a scholarship from the Baroque Ensemble. I'll talk more about that in a second. And then in April, we'll have a concert of mostly Easter music. You can go on to the next slide. So more about this student scholarship competition. We do this every year. And last year, we renamed the competition in honor of Leventa Medvetsky, who was our accompanist a few years back. He was actually a BYU student, an undergraduate student, and went on to the Juilliard School in New York for a graduate program, but sadly developed cancer and passed away. And so in his honor, we renamed this competition. You can see some past winners there in the list. And this current year, fortunately, we were able to finish this just before everything shut down with the coronavirus situation. We had 2 co-winners, that are displayed there, each of whom won a $500 prize, and the other 7 finalists won $100 each. Okay, next slide. Okay, so if you hit advance, in theory, we should get a video clip. We'll see how it goes. Oh, I'm not hearing any audio. Can you hear the audio? There we go. Okay, so that was a winner from a few years ago. Next slide. So we are very appreciative of these CARE grants, and they make it possible for us to do the things that we do. They allow us to pay our director and instrumentalists modest stipends, allow us to purchase choir music, and hold activities such as that scholarship competition. The CARE funds aren't used as prizes, but they do help defray other costs. And we are, again, very appreciative and thank the City of Orem very much for this. Next slide. So that's pretty much it. I've got this audio clip so you can hear us. So that's an example of non-Baroque music that we do, and some pictures from that recent tour to Germany that I mentioned earlier. So thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm willing to try to answer them.
Thanks, John. The people that participate, is there a tryout? Do they have
That's
to try
right,
out?
yeah. Yeah, there's an audition process. Once you're in the choir, you typically don't have to re-audition every year, but new members have to audition. Yeah, I can describe the audition process, but you probably don't care that much.
Jeff just needs to know the dates and times for the audition, I think.
Oh yeah, are you a singer?
Yeah, I've already had enough rejection in my life. Steve.
So yeah, if you go to our website, there's an audition link, a form to fill out to get on the audition calendar.
Great.
But as a pro tip here, if you're a tenor, it's much easier to get in than if you're in one of the other parts. We're almost always short of tenors.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Jeff, I think he'll let you do it right now if you'd like.
I'll spare you.
John, did you have any shows canceled this spring?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you have some shows and I apologize if I missed this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we did have all of our shows canceled in spring. Typically, we would have done 2 shows in April.
Okay.
We also had to cancel the the scholarship recital. We did kind of a virtual recital type thing, but we had to cancel that concert as well.
Okay. Okay. Anything else for John? Brian? Are you Brian's brother? We have somebody here in the room asking.
No, I'm not, but Brian sings in the group as well. I don't know if you saw his name earlier. And we are cousins, basically second cousins or something close to that.
Well, John, we'll be sure that we don't hold that against you. I know Brian, he's a good man.
He's a good guy.
Yeah,
he's a talker.
There's a lot of relationships we didn't even know existed until the Relative Finder app came out, and then suddenly we knew what a 5th cousin once removed was.
For sure.
Okay, John, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
you for your
you.
time.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
trying to remember who Grassroots is. Give me just 1 second. I'm just, again, I got these people in here and I don't know the names of all of them to know.
Now you know how Jimmy Fallon feels.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Okay. So Jessamine. Okay, Grassroots. Let me bring in Jessamine and then I'll see if she knows who Aubrey is.
Bella. Bella.
Jessamine, can you hear us? Oh. Jessamine, how are you? Oh, we're not getting any, not having any sound here from you. I don't know if there's something on your end, and I don't have a microphone even to show mute or unmute.
Bella. Bella, come here.
I know if she can't get the mic to work on her computer, she can call in to the meeting.
There is a, Jessamine, there's a call-in number as well if you're struggling to get the mic to work. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yep, we got you.
Hi.
Hey, Jessamine, real quick, do you know, is there an Aubrey that's supposed to join you?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
but her husband Drew may be joining us just on the same account.
Okay, perfect. I'm letting them in right now.
Okay.
Then we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, Aubrey, how are you?
Good. How's everyone there?
Doing good.
Doing well.
Okay, I have your presentation ready. I can, if you wanted to say a few words, or we can jump right into it.
We could jump right into it.
Okay.
That's fine.
There we go. And I'll just go move whenever you tell me to go to the next slide.
Okay. Let me pull up the notes real fast for the slide. Okay. So we hope everybody's doing well right now and that everybody is safe and healthy. You can move it to the next slide. So we're the Grassroots Shakespeare Company. We're a group of multidisciplinary local artists that are inspired by the original practices of Jacobean theater, Shakespearean theater. Our founding members are from the Orem-Provo area. Many of us attended and met as students of the theater program at Utah Valley University. And for the past 10 years, we've been touring live free theater in the Utah and Salt Lake Valley areas. If you want to go to the next slide. This is a just a rough of our last season, what we performed for our summer tour, Halloween, winter show, educational tour. The titles with asterisks are the ones that we performed or had shows in the Orem city specifically. And our Orem city estimate was about 3,000 to 400 or 3,000 to 4,000, but we fell short of that because our educational tour was canceled due to the coronavirus and risks associated with it. So to keep our actors and the audiences safe, we canceled, we're postponing, we're rescheduling with schools that we canceled with. So right now our actual Orem estimate was about 200 students, which brought our actual to about 1,300.
So Jessamine, though, with the anticipated 2,000, the 10, you did have the 10 scheduled ones. It's just them getting canceled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is a breakdown of how we were planning to use the 2019-2020 grant funds for CARE, but we've only used about 3,700 of it, and we have a remaining 1,282 that I've been in brief communication with Stephen Downs to seek approval for projects to use the remaining funds that would benefit Orem specifically.
And that's just because relocating some of the funds from the educational tour, since it was canceled early, to help later.
Exactly. If you want to go to the next slide, this has a breakdown of sort of the intended. This was the amount and the breakdown that we had submitted post sort of everything with the coronavirus. So this is a little bit in flux, like the travel and housing, for instance, can be shifted around to another area like development or marketing or materials. But this is roughly the idea of how we were planning on using the amount that we had asked for. Aubrey, do you have anything to add to this?
No, and this is, again, hopefully for the educational tour 2021, which we had over 10 shows in Orem booked. So we really are gaining momentum with our Orem schools, which is so awesome. So I think that hopefully everything will be great 2021. That's the new hopeful year. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of schools come in and asking for us 2021 education.
And we do have a couple digital programs that we're trying to build with our board and our company to hopefully benefit this Utah Valley area, specifically the Orem City area. If you go to the next slide, right now we're working on the sonnet series, which is 6 local actors performing 3 sonnets each. We want to be able to share it with the local community via YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We're also going to be filming our educational tour and sharing it with the students at schools that we postponed with due to COVID-19. If you go to the next slide, it's got 2 other projects. So the digital scholarly library, we're hoping to work with specifically Orem City schools to be able to provide like lesson plans and blog posts or even videos to help drama teachers or English teachers be able to talk about Shakespeare, Jacobean theater. And then we have a digital readings. This is in preliminary stages because I'm talking with the Orem Library specifically about how we could partner with them to distribute to Orem residents sort of staged readings of infrequently produced Shakespearean shows. And then the next slide was a collage, but it's specifically, we just wanted to emphasize the importance that we as a company and the artists in our company feel about, you know, spending time growing the local community in any capacity that we can while we're all sort of shut in. That feels like a really important thing for us to build community cohesion. And, you know, we'd love to return to normal and be able to, like this picture sort of gives me chills. I really love that we've been able to perform in, you know, our beautiful parks for the community, and it'll be nice to return to normal so that we can do that. And that's it.
Okay, any questions for Jessamine or Audrey? Aubrey, sorry.
It's okay.
You mentioned the sharing some of your videos with the Orem Library. Is there a charge for that, or is that something you're just offering?
It was hopefully something that we would just be able to offer and use the remaining like grant or the upcoming grant money to cover the cost of that, and work with the Orem Library in whatever capacity they need.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. You know, I think anytime you're offering something for people to be able to watch other than Tiger King, I think that's a good thing.
Anything's better than that.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I probably share this story every year, and it's not necessarily the most uplifting, but it shows the passion of those that go to the grassroots Shakespeare. And do you know what story I'm about to share?
I do. I know what story you're about to share.
Like 3 years ago, at our Summerfest. So they always come to as part of our Summerfest. They would do a show kind of off to the side of the stage, and a group that was going to sing comes in and they want to do a sound check. So they plug in their equipment and they start playing. Well, there's a guy that's really upset that this is kind of, drowning out the Grassroots Shakespeare. So he comes and he just unplugs and like rips out the cords from this band's equipment. Well, I guess it's pretty expensive equipment. So they come over and start arguing, and somebody gets punched in the face. All because nobody wanted to miss a Grassroots Shakespeare performance. So speaks to the passion of
Don't mess with our Shakespeare.
Yep. Anyways.
That's such a crazy story.
Yeah, sorry. One of my favorites, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But any other questions, though? Appreciate you both sharing this evening with us. And sorry it got cut short, but I'm glad the traction that you're able to start receiving in our schools. That's wonderful to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have Orem Library rescheduled for October, and we're going to look into, once everyone's back in school, proposing to those teachers. I don't know how those first couple of months in the fall are going to look for them, catching up and everything. And I don't know if they would be ready for a show then or just stick to our 2021 spring show.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, we'll let you go.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. We will go ahead and bring in Colonial Heritage, and this will be our last one, and then we'll do our deliberations. Gov, Daniel, how you doing? Kim? Hey, everybody. Let me unmute you real quick.
And Bree.
Say that again, Kim.
Oh, sorry. It should be hopefully Gov and Bree and Daniel and myself.
Oh, there's Bree. Yeah, let me bring her in. And then, yeah, Daniel.
Switch.
Okay, there's Daniel, and then, yeah, Bree. Think we got everybody.
And then is Gov in there also?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, perfect.
For a minute there, Matthew, I was about to call you Kenna. So.
Well, yeah, we share Zoom accounts to be frugal here at the City of Orem, and so I use Kenna's account, and usually when I can attach my name to anything I do, I can get farther. So, or I can attach her name, I should say.
Excellent.
Well, I don't know who's going to take the lead. I can pull up the presentation if you want to start that way. Or is there anything you want to share before we get started?
Probably a good place to start. How do we advance slides?
Will you just tell me when you're
Okay.
when you're ready, and I'll click the next button.
Whoa. Okay. So Gov, you going to start out then? Can we?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Give me just about 10 more seconds. I should be ready. Excellent.
Okay.
All right, so we are here, of course, to talk about the Colonial Heritage Festival. Go ahead and advance the slide. Will come as no surprise to you that it is the largest such event in the Western United States. We now have more than 300 volunteers, and it draws more than 20,000 attendees annually. It really is the largest such event this side of Colonial Williamsburg. So yeah, to the next slide. So this is really what we're trying to accomplish with the festival. We're trying to preserve history, culture, and skills of the 18th century America by engaging, educating, and entertaining 21st century America. And so we just have go ahead and advance. We just have just a sampling of some of the things that we do every year, and we'll highlight some of the things that are new and coming up. So one of the really beloved activities is where we gather several of the founding fathers together to read for the first reading of the Declaration of Independence in the newly declared state of Massachusetts. So here we have Benjamin Franklin, but George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they will all join in. Just out of the picture is Mercy Otis Warren, who will also join in the reading. For many of our attendees, it is the first time that they've been exposed to the full text of the Declaration of Independence.
And to
So-
have, oh, sorry. I was going to say, and to have it read by founding fathers and important people that were of that time is, you know, extra special. These people are so well versed in history. So to hear it coming from them, it's just as if it was coming from the real founding people themselves.
So in our next slide, we're going to see one of the things that is truly unique about this event is that we have so many world-class reenactors of the Founding Fathers that we have many opportunities for folks to interact with them just in a one-on-one setting. And we'll see a comment here from a visitor at the end of the presentation that talks about what a special experience this was. Just to give you a feeling of the kind of reenactors that we draw, the General Washington that you see here actually is one of just a handful of reenactors who portray General Washington at Mount Vernon. And so we're able to draw him from his normal activities on the East Coast out to this event. Our event is that well regarded nationally. We'll go ahead and advance. Part of what we're doing and expanding this year, for the first time, we have offered classes in some of the skills that we demonstrate at the festival. So coming at our next festival, we'll actually be offering classes in calligraphy.
Lauren.
Is there a question?
Lauren. Look who it is. That's me.
Daniel's not shy about this, but he actually conducted a calligraphy class. When was it? It was earlier this year. Was it January? Maybe February. It was actually also held in the city of Orem, where people had said, wow, we really want to learn more about this. And so he held a class that was sponsored by the Colonial Heritage Foundation as well. And this is one of the things that we are really building out to give more educational opportunities for people to get their hands on and develop these skills. In no small measure, it's to help us develop the kind of local talent that will allow us to continue to take this event forward for decades to come. In our next slide, we'll see a new exhibit this year, which is our bookbinding exhibit. Our bookbinder here on the right is actually, she's a professional restorer of 18th century and earlier books. She works for the Church History Department up in Salt Lake. But when she found out about this event, she said she absolutely wanted to be involved, but all of her equipment was more modern than would have been appropriate for 18th century, actually original bookbinding. And so it was the participants of our coffin maker built most of this equipment that you see her using here in the 18th century style. She's actually here holding an 18th century, it's a small children's Bible that was published in the 18th century. It's one that she's restoring for us, but she brings it out to kind of show kind of the construction of these kind of precious books. In our next slide, we're going to see a really unique event that happened this past year. So we had a couple of our participants who had decided that they wanted to marry, and they held their wedding off until they could actually have that ceremony conducted at the festival. This was one of the largest attended events that we've ever had, and I don't have a picture of how many people there are, but there are hundreds of people that are just looking on to this event. Although it maybe lacks a little historical accuracy to have General Washington preside over the wedding, but this man, Daniel Shippey, actually became registered as a minister in the state of Utah so he could perform this legal ceremony that was a part of our event. It was really quite a moving ceremony. Only a couple of years ago, on the next slide, you'll see a couple of years ago, we began a particular reenactment that is entitled, Can We Really Be Free? It was developed by volunteers of our festival for the foundation. It takes a close look at how the Revolutionary War affected the Black community in Virginia, particularly dealing with the events surrounding Governor Dunmore's proclamation of freedom for any slave who could come and fight for the king. It was a very complex time, and families faced very difficult choices whether they would stay together as families or to send the men off to fight in hopes of freedom. And so this is a newer presentation that has been very well received by the community. And we were thrilled to have such participation from our local Black community to help us with this particular presentation and to help also in the development of it. So we are, one of the things that we're thrilled to be able to do is to really get people's hands onto the history. And so here we really see a kind of very nice image of 18th century America interacting with 21st century America. And when we think about sharing the culture of that day with the culture of our day, it is clear that here in the United States of America, we are not all of a homogenous culture. And so being able to see folks from all walks of life come and learn about the founding of this nation and to do it in this unique way is always very gratifying. In the next slide, we'll see that something that's kind of very relevant. Here we have our military surgeon kind of looking at medical practices in the 18th century. And when we hold our next event, we will definitely be bringing in an exhibit that's dealing with the smallpox epidemic that hit Boston in 1721. So we had very many of the same situations or the same feelings that are happening today were also happening in Boston. So there's lots of discussion today about what's the right way to deal with this particular epidemic, with this pandemic. When should we, how do we draw the balance between socializing and getting the economy started again with keeping people safe? And it happens that this epidemic, smallpox epidemic in 1721 was really the front lines of the questions of should we be inoculating against smallpox, or does inoculation cause more harm than good? And so it's so interesting to see that we have so many of the same kinds of issues that we're dealing with today around health. So we're always glad to be able to make connections into today's society. Here we have just a few unsolicited comments that people brought to us on our Facebook page this past year. I just want to highlight a couple of things where we've got many, many people who express similar sentiments. They look forward to the Colonial Heritage Foundation or Colonial Heritage Festival every year to strengthen their family's love, not just of the country, but of those who gave so much for it. And they can't wait for the festival. This lady on the right, the highlight was being able to have conversations with George and Martha Washington, also Thomas Jefferson and Sam Adams. This was simply amazing. And we're always gratified to hear that we have people ready to go and tell other people to come and see. Quite simply, as we'll see on the next slide, that we are really pleased to be able to partner with the city to bring this world-class event to the city of Orem every 4th of July. And so we hope that we'll have support this year as we've had in the past, and we're glad to take any questions.
What questions do you have for the Colonial Heritage Festival?
I'm just wondering if there's a contingency plan in case this doesn't happen on the 4th of July. Are you thinking you might do it later in the year if it has to be done later?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's one that we've given a lot of thought to. Of course, this is an Independence Day celebration. And so if we end up not being able to hold the event on the 4th of July, what we will do is we will postpone it until the following 4th of July. So funds that are allocated this year, if we end up not holding the event, we will use those to support the 2021 event. And because of the timing of our event, that it comes really right at the very beginning of the fiscal year, we typically spend about half of our budget in this current fiscal year. So before the end of June, we'll spend about half the budget and then about half after kind of paying for things that we've contracted for. And so we would just shift these funds forward to the next year, but still spend them during the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Maybe Kim, Gov, and others, if we could ask, I mean, how would that then look? If you had this money roll forward to the next year, would you not request money the following year? Or would you ask?
We'd probably still request money.
Then that would probably be for the next year.
Yeah.
But
Because
we would-
essentially you then have the opportunity to have twice as much money for the one event.
we probably would not think of it that way, but we would probably, if that were the way that it would work out, we would probably continue to apply and spend the money at the end of the fiscal year instead of the beginning. So apply for the funds, but then to support the event of the following year.
Because in reality, like Gov said, so much of the planning that leads up to it happens before June 30th. So so much of that budget is already really gone before the event ever even happens. So
Have you, if I could ask, have you made any big expense purchases or have you had any big expenses already?
We had one fairly large expense that we were on the cusp of spending. It was actually to rent the home that is directly adjacent to the event. It's now an Airbnb. And we wrote the check and we put it into Kim's hand to make that reservation when we decided let's hold off on that until we see what happens. So our only expense really this year is our ongoing annual storage expense that runs us about, if memory serves, $1,800 a year. So that's really our only expense that we're on the hook for this year.
well, we are in the middle of doing our benches. That's going to be an expense for next year also.
Yeah, so every year we do build some additional assets that we need to be able to do this event. And certainly if we were funded this year, we would, regardless of what happened, we would still have those kinds of expenses going on.
Yeah.
But those are typically assets that we will then maintain and use for years to come.
For sure.
This is mostly out of curiosity, but how much of the things that you guys use is owned by the organization, like the cannons and the tents and the equipment, versus just the volunteers kind of having some of their own outfits and equipment?
So we have a what is it, 30 by 15 by 30 storage unit that is basically full of gear that gets emptied out for the festival. It's a small fraction of the equipment that gets used. The vast majority is brought by the individual reenactors, who, by the way, come from all over the Western United States. We have some exceptions that come from further, but Western United States, a large contingent from Southern California, a large contingent from Arizona, a good group from the Pacific Northwest, some come from Nebraska, Colorado. They come where, in most cases, we can cover their travel expenses, but for many of them, we do not even cover all of their expenses just to get here. So this is a cost that many of them pay out of pocket to come and participate in, because they love the event and they love the fact that we can bring them such an audience to show what they do and for them to interact in a teaching capacity. It really is one of the, I don't really want to call it a miracle, but it's a very fortunate thing that this event has become the premier event for historic 18th century reenactment in the Western United States.
And because of that, that is how we get the caliber, the quality of people that we do that would not normally attend many other events. They seek our event out to attend. So it's quite an honor to have them.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you for the excellent work that you do. It's truly a highlight of our summer, being able to participate in that and get a little bit of a taste of our history and what our ancestors or predecessors have gone through. It's unparalleled, really.
Thank you. If I could just add one more thing, maybe really quick, that it has grown so much over the last few years. Even just the last 2 years, the number of participants that we've had has grown, and then the number of attendees has grown with it as well. And we foresee it continuing to grow as more and more people become aware of it. And that is one of our big pushes for this upcoming festival and future festivals, is just to get that word out more and more and more to continue to create a fantastic event.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for spending your evening with us too.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. We can jump right in. Does anybody want to take a minute or so to do anything, or do you want to just jump in?
I'd say just jump. You can jump in right now.
What? Sorry, say that, Danae, again.
I'm a teacher. I can do it all day. Just go.
Okay. Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna share my screen again. Let's see. Let me close some things.
So are we wanting to stay with the original allotted amount or take it back with the uncertainty of all the taxes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So we haven't had a chance to have that discussion with the council since we had the discussion of sticking to 70, but that was pre all of this. So Jeff, I don't know if you have any thoughts on how you'd like to handle the funding component here.
Well, I think we should. It's just so hard to know what's going to happen. But I think maybe our best bet would be is to kind of move forward in faith that let's look at what we would like to do. I mean, I don't even know what kind of a percentage we would be cutting back.
Yeah, so I mean, the other opportunity, thing we could do is, because we may be having this conversation with our majors as well, is set the amount that we want to be, and if revenue comes in under what we thought, we would then decrease by the percentage that it came under, kind of across the board, and so everybody essentially takes the same. So
I think that sounds great.
That's one way
Sounds
to do it.
pretty, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
Now, let me just start with this question, because it's going to be a big part of the funding, and that is, how do we want to handle, I'm going to say specifically the July 4th events. If they don't happen, there's a couple scenarios I can see. That is, they do still continue to have their storage needs, that, and if they're going to continue this event, they have to have those. There's a lot of other expenses, and I'll probably share too much because I don't want to influence you. Well, I am going to share too much, and it might influence your opinion, but I don't really usually hold it back. So with what Colonial Heritage Festival was saying of get it this year and they would roll it into next year, that means they'd have twice as much next year.
Yeah, they're double dipping.
Yeah, that's what that would be. What we already do is, we know that it's a July 4th event. We make the money available July 1, but we already reimburse things that happen in June and May because we know that they have expenses leading up to it. So it would be there's no doubt it would be giving them twice as much money for next year if we did that.
Well, it just gets messy. It gets hard to track. It gets
messy.
Yep. So there would be the option to say, hey, we'll pay your storage fees because those continue on, but that's all we would do if your event doesn't happen.
I think that's also fair, because anything else they've purchased, they can use it for the following year and apply for it next year.
Yeah, and we would, I think given the circumstance, we would reimburse like with the Roots of Freedom, the mics that they bought in this January for next year, I think we'd be willing to reimburse it, later. So, but if we reimbursed it now, I mean, a lot could happen. If in next year they're not even a foundation anymore and they're not doing the event, we'd want to reimburse it at a time when we know there's an event that's going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thought.
I agree with that.
So would the recommendation then be for those three that we would reimburse storage
Maybe
fee.
just,
Go ahead.
yeah, the storage fee. Because if they aren't going to do it, I mean, then they aren't going to do it. So it
So
sounds
we
like
essentially
most
give them two amounts, like, hey, you'd be funded to this amount if the event happens, but if not, you got this kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and the nice thing is since we're moving our deliberations event until early June, by then we'll actually know what if the event's happening, and then we'll just plug in. Your recommendation would be that if the event doesn't happen, that's just what we'd plug in.
Well, and should we do that even with other groups, right? Because if they're not going to be doing so many concerts in Orem or so many things,
I noticed that a lot of the
wonder.
concerts, they don't have them starting until September. I was making note of some of the concerts that, well, at least these ones recently, this group, some of them don't start until September, which, like the Utah Symphony, they don't start theirs until September. I was noting that also the Baroque Ensemble, they go from November, December, February, March, April. So I think that it's fair to say, you know, unless something is prolonged or unforeseen, I think that they would be okay in that regard. But I think for a lot of the other ones, I don't know, you know, because that wasn't something we were thinking about.
Yeah.
But some of these groups, like the ones that you were mentioning, are funding essentially November through April, and that's what they did last year, which means
they didn't
all
do
these
them this
events that
year.
got canceled, they do potentially have some extra money. I think you saw that with the Shakespeare group. I can't think of their name, but they had $1,200 because of the canceled events.
Now, what we do, just as a reminder, we reimburse on things, and so they're
Use the blanket.
So some potentially had drawn their reimbursement down all the way before this even happened. Others hadn't, and so I imagine there's going to be some money that gets unspent this year for sure.
Yeah, I can see that too. But you know, and the other thing is some of these places, they have to rent facilities, and they may not have been able to get some of those funds back for cancellations too.
Yeah.
That's kind of another thing to take in consideration. And I wish there's some of these people we could talk to and say, hey, you know, with your cancellations, were you able to get refunds?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I can't provide any light on that, but I had some 60 venues I had rented out that had to be canceled, and all but 3 of them gave us our money back, and the 3 that didn't held it for a future event. So, I mean, that's a decent sample. I had about 60 venues across the Western United States, and so we didn't lose any money on any of those. They gave us either credit or didn't charge us for the event. So everyone has been scrambling, you know, in the event industry and doing pretty well that way.
That's good to know.
I did make a note just so I went back, and these are essentially the ones that are single events versus not necessarily a single event.
Okay.
Just so you know. Now, I can't remember specifically the date. I've never even. Okay. Like the Center Stage Performing Arts. I mean, that was for the one show. Colonial Heritage Festival, Brazilian Festival. I think I mentioned that's September. So
yeah, that's always out still.
Yes, but
is this going to be?
Go ahead, Spencer.
Is this going to be our only deliberation, or are we going to come back again before the council meets on it? Because one of the things I'm kind of struggling with here is if we allocate for one of these single events the full amount, if the event happens, then it means for these other events that don't have that contingency, there'll be less money. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a zero-sum game when you're talking about grants like this. So I'm trying to figure out how we handle those contingencies going forward without cutting people short for these events that might not happen. I don't know.
So if our deliberation with the rest of the council is in early June, what we could do is while information is fresh in our mind, we can put something together now, and then when we hear, we could easily do this call again just for the sake of a deliberation if we find out, for example, that the Freedom Festival was canceled. That's probably the only one we'll have information on before we have to make a decision.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should definitely do that, because I think a lot of most of the people, most of the groups here are, not most, but 3 of the big groups here are going to be hinging on the Freedom Festival happening.
Well, and I think even by mid-May, we'll have a lot more information than we have today, because I mean, the president just, I wouldn't even say released as much as leaked his plan, today. He kind of started to eke out, but by mid-May, we should start to have all the governor's plans across the nation and have hopefully a much better feel of where we're going and what we're doing.
Let's see. I'm just plugging in numbers for the sake of discussion. I took out if the Freedom Festival didn't happen and we chose not to fund the I mean, not that we would do this, but those 3 dropping off makes a lot of money available. And so essentially fund, and I plugged in just the numbers of funding everybody that was funded before at that level of last year. And then the new applicants, not that we'd even give them their whole request, but that's what that shows. And that still only adds up to $59,000. So
what is our target number that we're shooting for? Is it the 69,998?
Yeah, essentially 70,000 is what we've been talking about. So I guess let's start this way. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can kind of go after this. Is there anybody that we kind of didn't feel we should be funding at all? Because I think we've talked about not wanting to make an expectation that everybody that applies for care gets care, because it is a very competitive grant, especially a year like this. So if there's anybody that anybody feels like we really just shouldn't be giving money anyways, I'm open to that discussion.
Was it center stage that we had all that conversation about?
Well, the thing about center stage is that they're charging all of those kids to perform, and then they're saying, well, we're doing a service for the community because we're giving them a show. But part of their charge, they're saying we're going to have an audience for you. So it's like they have to do that anyway. You know what I mean?
And they have the money. I would say no.
I don't really see the outreach there, because it's mostly parents and people who come. So it's not like they're performing in the schools or whatever. They're just saying, oh, we're having a performance and half the people are in it. So come and see them. So
it's a charity benefit.
I think I tend to push that to kind of the bottom of the barrel, and if there happens to be something left over, then we can revisit it.
So I'll plug in 0 for now then.
I also think the bloggers could take a way smaller number, just because there's not going to be the theater this year that they were probably planning on.
Yep, and in the past we've given them 500. How much have they drawn down? We're just going to look really quick to see how much of that they've drawn down.
Yeah.
Oh, you hit escape. One thing you guys asked for this. Kenna actually put together who's been difficult to work with.
Good.
The one, and I wrote it down, this is why I said we talk about them again, is Utah Wind Symphony took about 6 months to sign their application. And then they asked for all the money up front, and then they didn't show to their presentation tonight. So that really is the only one that's been really, really difficult to work with. So I have them as a no-show. Therefore, I don't think there's any way we give them any revenue. And Timpanogos Symphony too. They've never responded to us either, and they didn't show up as well.
Yeah,
okay, that makes that easy.
So Utah
without a reason for the no-show. There's not really a great excuse for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like this where we're going to be scrimming. So the Utah bloggers they drew down $310 before as of now. So that's essentially what they'll get this year, because they obviously won't go to any more shows likely.
So could we drop that down to 500?
Yeah, and that would be you know, what they received
That's what they got last year.
years before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised, honestly, people review for like $15 to spend up to 4 hours. That's
Well, they want to go see the play anyway.
yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. But
And so then they go and I don't think anybody does this for a living, like you were saying.
yeah, they do it for the love of the game, right?
Yeah, they want to see the play. Let's see. I'm a big fan of the Brazilian festival. We went to that last year and it was really, really fun. But I don't know what anybody's thoughts were on that one. Let's see.
Let me just say too, from historical, it's rare that we fund somebody all of what they've asked for at any kind of first year. This is an event that I think they would like to see improve. It, you know, speaks to, you know, there's been some on our city council who'd like to see us enhance and grow these cultural events that celebrate especially different cultures in our community. So I think there's an opportunity to fund, maybe not even having to go up that high, but still showing our initial support.
So maybe like half of it.
Yeah, I think half of it sounds good.
What do you think about that? Because I think, honestly, I write a lot of grants and we always ask for way more. We're like, well, let's just ask for 10, you know?
Yeah.
About half
I
of
think
it.
half's a good place to start, and then we can kind of circle back as we start to fine tune this.
And really coming out of the chute, that's a pretty generous donation of $4,000.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
But they were very prepared. I got to be honest. I was really impressed with their presentation, and they know what they're doing.
They were, and I'm excited to go to that this year.
It'll be fun.
The one I thought we should give full funding to might be the Heart and Soul. They're the ones that sing in the retirement homes. With just everything going on, I feel like
they wouldn't be able to do much. Not right now.
Not right now, but it sure would do some good in the future.
Maybe Stacy, kind of what you're saying is they're performing for a group that essentially will have lived in isolation 100% for
a while. Yeah, that's true. That's
So I mean, even if we didn't do the full 5,000, I would still like to give them a pretty good chunk, knowing that that's the population that will get served. Because everyone's health will decline, so I don't know how many of them will be able to leave and be able to experience all the other things going on in the community. They might be kind of stuck.
Yeah. Now Kenna was actually just looking. They haven't drawn down any money yet, and it could be that some just wait and they submit all their reimbursements later. I mean, I think he did say that they've been going around doing their shows. So
Yeah, he did. He had a number for us, but I don't remember. I wrote it down.
yeah.
Anyway.
In fact, you know what? The night we met was when the COVID started to hit the fan, because that's when I remember.
Yeah, it was in the library. The library closed while we were there.
It says, I wrote down they provide 52 shows in 17 facilities, about 800 residents a year
Oh, wow.
in Orem.
It was, because they had planned, there we go. They had planned to do, they're hoping for 52 shows. And that's what they're hoping to do.
So it'd be less than that, obviously. So we don't have to give them the full 5,000. Maybe we could go 4,000 because they asked for 3,000 last year.
Yeah.
They probably asked for more last year, but we're only given 3,000.
Yeah, because they asked for 4,500. We gave them 3.
Okay. So we could kind of meet in the middle there of 4,000 between the 3,000 they got last year and the 5,000 they're asking for this year.
I think that's a good idea.
Now here, let me throw this one out there. We got Utah Shakespeare Festival and Grassroots Shakespeare Festival that are essentially both doing educational programs in the school. And you know, it is kind of a discussion of, do we fund two that are doing the same thing? Do we just kind of focus the energy and resources into one to let them do, you know, more, or is there value in funding two organizations doing the same thing? Essentially.
Let me look at my numbers.
I stepped out during Utah Shakespeare's, but
wish we knew how much they overlapped, because
Yeah.
I'd be in favor of funding both to some degree if they're not doing all the same thing. Because I mean, I went to school at SUU, so I love Utah Shakespeare Festival. They are a class act. Anytime we get them in the community, it would be a huge thing. But I don't know how much they overlap. I would assume they don't overlap a ton, but I don't know.
I wrote down that Utah Shakespeare Festival gets about 10 schools.
okay.
They do 2 to 3 shows, then they invite the elementary schools to attend.
Okay, so it sounds like grassroots kind of goes out to more schools. This one sets up shop and brings more in.
Possibly. And the festival, they also do, it says they do a production, they do their talk backs, and then they do workshops with the kids.
Okay.
It would be interesting to see a list of where they're both at.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean,
I'd
I know
be
we have a lot
happy-
of schools, but
We're going to meet together to deliberate again. We can get that information before. Yeah, I got you. I see your mouth moving, Spencer, but I got you muted.
Yeah, I was just concurring. That'd be fantastic, because I mean, if they're going to different schools and affecting different areas, then to have two.
Yeah.
Would be great.
I feel like they hit two different demographics. I mean, so, but I feel like the Shakespearean Festival is it's a huge blessing that they come here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that as well. I mean, they're really, really well known. They're really good. So.
I don't know.
Nice to see.
I haven't seen the grassroots, so I don't know what it's like, but I have seen the Shakespeare one, and it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
well, and their grassroots is saying that they also went to 10 Orem schools too.
Yeah, but they ended up getting canceled because of COVID this year too.
So how many
That was the-
elementary schools do we have in Orem? Do we have 20? Because they're both claiming to have.
They're both
10.
claiming they're both are claiming 10, because they were saying that it says 10. They had 10 that canceled, and that they served 1,300 students, and their educational tour got canceled this year.
I mean, Shakespeare Festival said that they serve 2,000 to 2,600 students.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note, Utah Shakespeare Festival,
have a bigger reach.
When they were awarded in 18, they actually only drew down about 1,300 of their 4,000.
Wow.
So is that because they didn't actually come to the schools?
Yeah,
I
they just
think
they wouldn't have had the expenses. They'd have to actually show us the receipts, and so.
Because it depends. The thing about it is that schools have to be able to have them come. So
Yeah.
even if they're planning on going to the schools, if the schools can't have them come, then they can't come. Does that make sense? Like
Yep.
they have to get. I don't know. There's a lot of variables in that, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Grassroots is asking for
9,000.
double of what? Am I seeing this right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big difference there is probably that the grassroots is getting a majority of their funding here, whereas Utah Shakespeare Festival, this is only a small piece of the pie for them.
Sure.
Yeah. And they're only asking for 3,005 for Utah Shakespeare Festival.
I mean, I like the educational aspect of the festival. So I would be more inclined to giving them, we could do 3,000 if we want, or
This is Utah Shakespeare.
Yeah, Utah Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
And then Grassroots, we've given them 4 and then 4 and then 5 in the years past. So we've never given them up to that amount that they're looking for.
It's like a
Well,
lot.
That's a
why
lot.
Why start now, right? I still think people usually ask for way more than what they expect. So
I agree.
Well, this is their first application.
oh, this is their first one?
Utah Shakespeare. Yeah.
So no, they just didn't apply last year.
Oh,
but
just, yeah, 1 year.
So 2 years ago they received.
Yeah, they've been here before.
So you want to go like 2,500?
Yeah.
Well, let me just plug it in and we can. Shoot, sorry.
Yeah, and we'll have to circle back too. I wouldn't mind seeing Shakespeare Festival funded at the full amount if it's available, just to keep encouraging that group to return to our community.
Given that we're gonna reconvene again, I've had a lot of conversations with the president of the Freedom Festival and with others. I think the chances of this event happening are really, really, really slim. To go from what we're at now within 2 months to have an event of 20, 30,000 people. So if you're good, I'm going to plug in just kind of storage amounts for now. We can reconsider when we get together if they've actually moved the event forward. Does that work?
That works for me. I think that's a great idea.
And then that'll just allow us to kind of play with.
Because I was impressed with all their presentations, all those 4th of July presentations, and I'm certainly okay funding them to some degree to help continue their event in the more long term, even if it doesn't happen in the short term. But
the Freedom Vehicles one, though, I did like that they were planning to go to schools with that new trailer they were going to purchase.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun idea.
And most of this
that's
was
not just a one-time thing. That would open up to lots of schools.
And that was that extra money. Remember, that was now what we could do is say potentially we'll fund higher amount, but we're really funding the trailer. Not everything else.
Yeah, we could. Can we say that? Can we say
Yeah.
do fund the trailer?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
And that was one of the ones I had to step out for. So forgive me for not remembering was he going to take him to Orem schools then?
Yeah, he was building a custom-made trailer so that they could get multiple vehicles to the school.
And then they could put down ramps and then they could walk around the vehicles on the ramps that they fold down.
So
maybe we can get a little more information before the next meeting about the truck and how it works and how it would, if he's really thought through all the safety aspects to make sure that the elementary schools even allow him to do it. Because if they don't think it's safe, they're not gonna allow it.
Well, he mentioned it was custom where there would be a walkway around it with
railings.
And the trailer, he was asking $5,000 for that. Because he was saying currently it takes 8 hours to move the vehicles out of where they're stored. And so.
Yeah. We can find out some more information for sure. Is there a number you want to plug in?
I'd say, maybe right now look at giving him half.
Well, he technically is asking for, 10 grand.
Yeah. Well, no, not that much. Hang on.
Well,
Freedom Vehicles are asking for
So they did that, and then
5,000.
yeah, it was weird. So they applied for a mini grant at $49.99, but then asked for an additional $5,000 if we would consider the trailer.
Oh, that's right. Well,
And
and
everything
I,
else would have to do with the actual event. So if the event doesn't happen, that money
Yeah.
could go to the trailer.
exactly.
Well,
So do you
let's
want to
just
start with like 4,000 or?
yeah, we can plug
yeah.
that in there and then go from there for sure. So the Utah storytelling, this is one that likely, again, this is next June. I don't think we have to worry about whether it's gonna. Well, I mean, who knows? But likely that will be that would be fine. We did 3,500 2 years ago and 4,000 last year. I will. This is echoing the commission from last year, and that's that. This was one that they liked because it was unique. There was nobody else doing this. This was creating a different experience than anybody else was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the storytelling festival.
Given a tight year, I mean, do you want to go to 3,500? What we did a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, Wasatch Contemporary Dance. This is obviously a group that I think they're. So they received 2,000 2 years ago, 2,900 last year. This is one that does performances whenever this is one that will do them when they're able to do them, as opposed to set date.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
They're a little more flexible.
Well, I haven't been to them, but I've seen all of their things advertised at the library, and they always look really fun. Like they do a lot of those little things where they'll have, it's like for the little kids to come and do, and it always looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. But I don't have any little kids, so
They are the only dance group as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it's something unique.
yeah, because no one else
Yeah.
is doing that. I love the way they go into, like I said, they go and do things at the library with movement and stuff, which is really fun. So I like.
They're one of the few. They've actually drawn down all their money already, so they use it.
That's good.
So like 3,000.
Oh, I say
28.
3,000. Go for 3.
3,000 sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Utahns for Culture. This is the organization we heard from tonight that essentially promotes the arts with trainings. We gave them 1,500 a couple years ago. I think they did report pretty light attendance in their trainings that they're doing.
Yeah.
They haven't drawn any money down yet. Now, again, some of those just wait and do it at the end of their year. They can kind of float the money. I think they use it to rent the Sarah space.
I think they were, because last year we were talking about maybe like they were saying, couldn't we get the Sarah to just give them, and then they were like, well, the Sarah can't, they have to make money too. So I think it is just to rent the space.
So if
I
it
do
goes
like
through,
that they're
that's a double win.
I'm at more of 1,000 to 1,500 on them as opposed
So here's
to
what
the full amount.
here's what they're listing: $1,000 for a subject expert. So not a ton actually for the rental. 400 for materials, 300 for travel, 500 for marketing, 200 for facility rental, 600 for miscellaneous, administrative costs.
I did like that they were changing stuff to be virtual, because a lot of those companies, the population they serve is now all having to be virtual. So I do like that they were adapting to possibly save some of those companies. But
One other thought too is, I mean, this probably more than ever, these cultural arts organizations are going to need, they're going to need to reinvent themselves and train and develop to kind of come back out of this.
Yeah, because they're going to be hurting after this.
Yeah, they
year.
will.
we could start with 2.
Yeah, I think 2,000 is a good place to start.
The Orem Corral. This is kind of staple group. They've received 4,900 or 4,999, 4,500 to 2 years ago.
Are they the ones that had like the salaried conductors at like 7,200? Is that them?
I think so. Yeah, they're the one. Yeah, because they mentioned how they haven't been. Since they're not rehearsing, they're not paying. So they use this and then membership dues to cover the costs.
We do 6 or 5 concerts a year for free in Orem.
6 or 5. That's a lot for 6 or 5 concerts. But I think this is their norm. They've been here pretty much every year. Their goal is to.
Sorry, I just recognized
They're not asking for more.
Mm-mm.
Just sustaining.
Maybe go to what they got in 2018 to 4,500.
Make that a starting point at least.
Especially where concerts are being canceled.
Yeah. Where we're not seeing very many concerts, and we're going to start because depending on how long this goes out till, some of them don't start until the fall, but some of these things go on during the summer.
Well, and he made it sound like they get paid per hour because he was saying they're not getting paid right now because they're not rehearsing.
Yeah.
So they won't need that full amount.
No, that's very true.
Good point.
Utah Baroque Ensemble. I mean, it's probably a similar. I mean, really a similar discussion there. $4,500 is what they've received the last 2 years.
555, something like that.
So I don't know. I feel like maybe the 4,500 is.
Yeah, I think 45 as a starting point for them.
I think so too.
Cantorum Chamber Choir, 6,000 last year and 4,500 the year before.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna be in a similar boat too with cancellations and things based on the guidelines the president outlined. Just looking at that, some of these events aren't gonna be able to happen for a bit.
No.
Well, in their high school program.
That will be delayed.
Yeah. So are you thinking go back to what they got a couple years ago? 4,500 instead of 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garden Valley Pipe. They got last year was their first year and they got 3,500.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're a grown organization. I was impressed with them. So, I mean, I think they definitely have good plans for where that money would go to help them. I mean, I'm not suggesting a full fund, but
what was their time frame for their presentations? Do you have that there, Stephen?
Yeah, give me just a second.
I agree with you, Spencer. I was impressed with what they're doing.
yeah, I mean, there's some organizations that don't seem quite as buttoned up, but they really seemed like they knew what they were going to spend the money on and how it would help them grow.
Yeah.
Theirs was just for the purchase of equipment. So the good news is that would be used at any point,
Yeah. Yeah, practice chanters for students at 120 each and drums at 1,000 and then $3,500 for insurance. Or sorry, $530 for insurance.
Right.
And did you find their event dates?
Yeah, I'm looking for that.
I know that they have some events that they were doing that they were planning on and then are getting canceled just like everybody else's events right now. So, but for the most part, they've been still
Okay.
doing a lot of their practices. They've been doing practices online and with the students and practices with the band themselves. I do know that they've been doing that.
It looks like a lot of it is for their St. Patrick's Day concert, which kind of makes sense. So you're looking at next March for
Yeah.
the big one at least.
Well, how do we feel about like 5,000? Kind of meet in the middle of.
Did they say they do anything with the Scottish Festival?
Wait a second.
Oh, you mean which Scottish
Which is
festival
in
though?
Payson, which is not a Orem thing. So
Yeah, that's a Payson thing.
Yeah, so major activities they're performing. Orem Summer Parade, which isn't going to happen.
Nope.
I don't know if you knew that. Sorry.
I figured it.
St. Patrick's Day Parade, community concerts, UVU soccer games, Sarah Shell production of Brigadoon. That's them even last year. Payson Scottish Festival and Highland Games. And then
Mhm.
Salt Lake. They do police and firefighter memorials.
Yeah, they do.
Graduation ceremonies, which aren't happening.
Not this
So,
year.
what about like 5,000?
But again, we are talking about next year, which they probably would.
Yeah, and they also do a lot of education with their students, which I think is
Yeah,
big.
they're doing a lot of outreach.
Yeah.
People coming in, and that's what all that chanter stuff is for. So
Yeah,
Especially
I
the
think it's
chanters and the
kinda-
drums and things like that.
I think it's the kind of group you want to encourage with a little bit of money. So I think that's 5,000 is a good start.
Yeah.
And the last one is Chantanet's. We
Oh,
up
and we
them.
got Utah Symphony, don't we, or no?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. And then Utah Symphony down here. Yep.
What was the Sean that's going to use the money for again?
New music.
New music, because they a lot of their music they went through and they had to get rid of, and they didn't have rights to and it was copies, bad copyright infringement.
Yeah. Costume.
They're better people than me. They're a non-for-profit. I would have told them just to keep it all.
So costumes, music, rental of facilities, and insurance, and then some operating expenses. I mean, we gave them a pretty good up to, last year.
Yeah.
Up to 6,500. I mean, they, yeah.
Maybe just start at 6,500 again and go from there.
Agreed.
Because we just got one more to get through, and then we can kind of circle back and see how we're going to treat some of these other ones.
So Utah Symphony and Opera, 9,000. I remember the conversation last year being surrounded about this is potentially kind of I mean, to bring the Utah Symphony come and get established in Orem is kind of a game changer in the arts world for their big organization.
And big
I
for our
remember we were-
economy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I
actually
agree.
really excited about this. So I vote we fund them a lot. So I like
Yeah, I
being
was
able to
leaning
go.
towards a full fund on them. I mean, to get
Yeah,
that
I
organization
agree
in
with the
Utah
full fund
County
on that
more.
one as well.
So if we did that, then you're looking at 64, 649, and that is assuming that we don't that the Freedom Festival and that part doesn't happen.
Right.
Which I don't think is unlikely by any means.
That's about where we wanted to be at, right? Or
Yeah.
where did we?
Yeah, you're talking about a $5,000. So like
Maybe we should just leave it right there.
I think that's a good one to stay at right now until we get further information.
Yeah, because I mean, if we get information that it's going to go on, and we could be a little more aggressive on some of these cuts and fund more to some of that event. But if it ends up it's not going to go on, then that's probably a good number to be at, which leaves the council with a little bit of wiggle room, assuming taxes aren't as good as we think they're going to be and whatnot. You know, coming in a little low, especially when I think we're funding a lot of people really well, is probably the way to go.
Okay. Any kind of again, we'll meet again. So we're going to find out about the Shakespeare and the grassroots to find out if there's any overlap. we'll obviously find out about the Freedom Festival, I think, here in the next week or so. I guess the other one, I'll just bring this one up for conversation, is the Utah Brazilian Festival. There was just a comment that said, let's come back to it, but that 4,000 may have been potentially a generous out of the chute give for a first year on an event.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to make any adjustment there?
Let's take them down to 3.
I'm comfortable with 4 if we have it right now.
4, yeah.
Given just they're real buttoned up. They're not, they haven't run it here, but if I'm not wrong, they're running it in Salt Lake County. Is that correct?
This last year was the first year they did it in Orem.
They've been running for a long time.
Yeah, before they were running it somewhere in Salt Lake County, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty fun. I'd love to see. I think they were saying they want to move it. I think this is kind of like with the symphony, where we kind of want to encourage them to stay here.
Yeah.
So I think 4,000 sounds okay to me, but that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if they were a new organization, that 4,000 might be a little bit too much. But I think given their track record, encouraging them to stay here is what we're looking for.
The other thing I'll reach out to on Freedom Vehicles is if we just gave them 4,000, but it has to be for the trailer, if they can do it for that.
That would be nice to find out.
Just to know
Yeah.
that that's even going to work. Because if they say we can't do it for 4,000 or we can't make up the other 1,000, then that may becomes a different conversation too.
Yeah, or even if they even want it for just the trailer, does it not really work?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I just want to make sure I have any other questions on Warm Corral, Shakespeare, Heart and Soul, Utah Borough. I think that covers it.
Should we discuss real quick what numbers we might be interested in if perchance the Freedom Festival is going to happen on those 3 that we kind of lowballed with just the storage, just to give us an idea of how far apart we are on that?
Let's see. Just so you know, essentially the amount we'd have to quote unquote make up would be, well, hold up. This is just with the assumption that we funded them to the same level as last year. Oh, sorry. The Freedom one's different because they only asked for 1,700 last year, and this year they're asking for 4.
Yeah. It's the difference on the trailer.
Yeah.
Which is, I find that interesting because they bring so much to that event, and yet, historically, well, I guess that was last year, but they didn't ask for very much.
No.
I think they get a lot from the Freedom Festival Foundation.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
if I remember correctly, I think one year that they got funded, I think back in 2018, they basically said that they weren't going to, I guess, come back and ask for that much for the next years, and they just were operating costs almost in storage, if I remember correctly.
I just find that refreshing.
Yeah, Vernon,
it's
Vernon
nice.
who runs Freedom Vehicles is probably the most detailed person we deal with. He's got it all together. So, I think he literally just decided, he figured out exactly what he actually needed, and that's all he asked for.
Yeah. And
So
it was
the difference,
great.
if it came back and we wanted to fund, well, there's a couple things. Freedom Vehicles, if the event happens, do we just fund them for the event, or do we fund them also for the trailer? And then Roots of Freedom and Colonial, if we fund them, if we brought back to previous year's funding, the difference we'd have to find essentially is $10,750.
But see, wouldn't it technically be more than that? Because I thought Freedom Vehicles wanted 5,000 additional.
Yeah, they wanted
$49.99.
Yeah, so you're right. So I guess that would go up another 1,000. So we need to, if we don't do both, I don't know if they were going to do the event, if we'd also they fund the vehicle on top of it or the trailer.
Sure.
So yeah, another 1,000. So 11,750 combined
Yeah,
with
but
everybody else's 61,549. So we essentially have to cut out 11,000 of that. So almost 20% from everybody is essentially what it would average to. So, and we probably would do a more detailed analysis if that came. So,
Right.
it might be worth just having the discussion if that happens. I think it's honestly really, really slim that they do it. Because if there's still issues with the governor's directive, then the city isn't even going to hand over the park to them.
Yeah, well, and the same thing like what happened with Freedom Fest. I mean, you got to make decisions so far in advance.
Yeah.
That you got to fall to the side of caution, which means we're probably going to end up canceling the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the health department has to give them a mass gathering permit. When my uncle's a health director, and I know how stingy that man is. So if he gives out as little as he gives for Christmas, they're not going to get it.
Humbug.
I'm just kidding. But
yeah.
So if you're good, I think we start there, and once we get Freedom Festival direction, we'll call another meeting and we'll go through this.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
Hey,
Let's
I
do it.
appreciate you. Thanks for spending your evening with us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good work.
Yeah.
Hey, yep. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.